Alright, let's start talking about the SysPath exam. Trust me, you don't want to put off your exam preparations.
Yeah, don't get behind. I already heard that.
Well then, let's jump right in. The exams in SysPath are broken down into 3 parts, except for the final exam, but let's worry about that later. You are not graded on the take-home. It's a study aid, not an assessment. The in-class portion is your standard test, with a note sheet you create using the take-home. The retake is completely optional, but it gives you bonus points and helps with your long-term learning, so you should definitely consider doing it.
A chance for extra credit in vet school? I'll take that.
You'll get the take-home portion about a week before the in-class exam, and will probably be devoting that weekend to working through it, taking notes and discussing it with a study group.
I'd rather study on my own.
It's just for 3 weekends. You'll survive. You might even enjoy it. Anyway, you'll see 4 sections on the take-home, in addition to instructions on how to use it, and of course the note sheet you can write on and bring with you to the in-class exam. You'll want to thoroughly think through each of these scenarios, lesions, mechanisms, and images while you study. Use them to develop your note sheet, but do it wisely. You have limited space to write your notes, so you can't just jot down everything. And remember that the in-class exam is timed, so you can't be looking through your note sheet for every question anyway.
This isn't my first time making a cheat sheet. I know I have to strategize what I do and do not include on it.
Good. And there's a section on the weekly brain stretchers where you practice writing notes for a take-home prompt, so you can use them to practice strategizing your note sheet. The key for each brain stretcher also has examples of how students might write notes for each prompt, so you can get a feel for different strategies people use. I found that the process of taking notes is helpful in and of itself, even if I didn't reference my note sheet very much during the exam. But some of my peers like to reference their sheets more often. Speaking of strategy, the point of the take-home prompts is not just to read something, jump to a diagnosis, and then move on. Take your time with each prompt and think about how it connects to the broader picture. This is where group discussions can really help you look at the same prompt from different angles. Think of the take-home as a preview of the in-class exam and use it to direct your studying.
You weren't kidding when you said I'd be spending all weekend studying, were you?
Nope. You really should read each item on the take-home critically, identifying its key features, thinking about your differentials, and how you might rule a differential in or out with diagnostics. Oh, and don't forget about those 3-way matching questions. As you work through the take-home, remember to step back and think about connections that can be made between the scenarios, lesions, and mechanisms. You might just see those connections on the exam in a 3-way match.
Okay, so the stuff on the take-home isn't just a study guide. It can actually be used on the exam. Is it just used in the 3-way matching questions?
No, that's just one way. They can also be used as lead-ins to short answer, short essay, or multiple choice questions, either on their own or in combination with new information included on the in-class exam. They can also be used as one of the answer options in a multiple choice question. You'll practice the 3-way matching questions during lab. The weekly brain stretchers will use examples of the other 3 ways in order to help you practice with the format.
Practice a little each week so I get used to the format before the exam? Sounds like a good plan to me. I don't like surprises.
Well, then you probably already marked down the exam dates in your planner, didn't you?
Just the first 2, since the finals week schedule isn't out yet. It's not a cumulative final, is it?
No. Each exam only covers material from the preceding section. But you might get an extra credit question that's a throwback to a previous unit, so don't completely ignore the old material. Also, don't ignore the lab material, since it can be used on the exams too. The good news is that the lab exercises are designed to help you prepare for that section's exam, so by preparing for lab, you're also taking a step forward in preparing for the upcoming exam.
First the brain stretchers, now the lab exercises are geared toward exam preparation. Well, it sure beats cramming at the last minute. But since you've been going on about the take-home so much, I have to ask, do all of the exam questions involve the take-home prompts?
Nope. You didn't think it'd be that easy, did you?
Aww.
But if you thoroughly study each item on the take-home, not just coming up with a diagnosis and moving on, then you'll have a good foundation for the exam. The take-home is there to direct your studying, not limit it to those prompts only.
Gotcha. I thought it sounded too good to be true.
Hey, it's still a great resource, but it's certainly not the only resource you have at your disposal. You'll want to keep up with the weekly brain stretchers, thinking of them as a mini exam practice to get used to the question format. You'll also want to use the old exams actively, practicing them before you look at the exam key.
Yeah, but isn't looking through old exams kinda cheating?
What he said. But there are some things to keep in mind in order to get the most out of them. Like I said, don't look at the exam key until after you've worked through it yourself. Same goes for the brain stretchers, since they use questions from previous exams. Active learning, not passive learning, is the key to success. Speaking of which, you'll get the most out of practicing the old exams if you wait until shortly before the in-class exam.
I'm pretty sure encouraging me to procrastinate is not the key to success.
I didn't say to put off studying until then. You'll definitely want to be studying from your notes and the PowerPoints throughout the semester. It's just that many exam questions connect concepts from multiple organ systems into a single, more complex question. If you try to answer them too early, before you've learned all the relevant material, then you may find the old exams to be more confusing and stressful than helpful. That's why the brain stretchers are so handy earlier on. Their questions are hand-picked from previous exams to only involve material that you've already learned by that point of the semester. Once you get to about 2 weeks before the exam, then you'll have enough material under your belt to practice working through the old exams and test yourself with the integrative questions.
Okay, I'll do that. Got any more tips?
Yep, don't waste your time trying to memorize cases or questions off the old exams since they aren't reused. However, the concepts they involve can be used again, which is why old exams make for great practice material to see where you need to focus your studying. They're also great for familiarizing yourself with the test format. Oh, and feel free to ask the instructors for help if a concept being tested on an old exam doesn't make sense to you. They're a great resource too.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Now, can you tell me more about this retake option? I remember you saying that it's a learning resource too, and it has bonus points. Not that I'm fixated on points or anything.
Yeah, it's a chance to get 5 bonus points towards your exam grade. Basically, you have 48 hours after the in-class exam to take it again and turn in a new answer sheet. You'll be able to reference your notes during the retake, but you won't have access to the exam key, obviously, nor will you know your exam score yet. It's a good idea to do the retake in a small group, since one of your peers might interpret a question in a completely different way than you did. Just don't have your group be too large or unwieldy.
But I could do it on my own if I wanted to, right?
Yes, you can. But keep in mind that the goal is to learn from the exam, not just writing down what you believe to be the right answer and moving on. So, if you do the retake by yourself, take your time and consider your thought process for each question, just like you would actually be discussing your thought process with your peers if you did the retake as a group.
Okay, work through the exam again as a learning tool instead of an assessment, turn in the answer sheet, and revel in my 5 bonus points. I'm down with that.
Well, there are a few things to keep in mind if you want those bonus points.
Of course there are.
I know the final exam is a long way away, but it doesn't have a retake opportunity. Then again, most years it doesn't have a take-home portion either. It's just special like that. As for the other 2 exams, you have to pass the in-class exam in order to qualify for the gift of 5 bonus points.
The cutoff for passing is 72%, right?
Yeah. It's a little scary that you know that off the top of your head.
Like I said before, I don't like surprises.
Well, then you'll love doing the brain stretchers, since doing at least 80% of the brain stretchers will let you get those 5 bonus points regardless of whether or not you passed the exam. Just remember that the instructors will check to make sure you actually put some effort into the brain stretchers, not just speeding through them and calling it good. And the brain stretchers have weekly deadlines, but I'm guessing you already wrote all of those down in your planner too.
Yep, I'm not letting those deadlines pass me by.
Good. One last thing. There's a survey you'll have to fill out after you do the retake in order to get your bonus points.
Survey? Really?
Hey, it's your chance to tell the instructors what you really think about this 3-step format, so don't waste it.
Okay, I won't.
Now, I think that's enough. I'll let you get back to working on your brain stretcher.
Thanks. I wouldn't want to start things off by procrastinating.
Brought to you by Lydia and Gwen.